Happening right now, Chinese President Xi Jinping about to arrive at the White House for a meeting with President Obama. Congressman Kevin Brady is in Washington, D.C. We've got he's joining us right now. Congressman, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Charles. How are you?
I'm good. What do you make of this big deal state visit by China's leader who has been anything but a friend to the United States? China, the cyber spying, the belligerence in the Pacific Ocean, and just everything else that's going on. They feel more like our enemies, and yet we've rolled out the red carpet.
Yeah, look, we got a lot of disputes with China right now. I hope the president's aggressive about addressing it. And it goes from cybersecurity to theft of intellectual property right to the trade and investment environment over there that continues to lock out American companies. But I'll tell you this, as many challenges we have with China, I think you look at America's problem, I think it's not so much with China, it's with our own government, because a lot of what we're seeing on the tax side, the regulation side, all of this is really slowing down. That's the big anchor around our U.S. economy, is our own U.S. government.
So in other words, what you're saying, Congressman, is you can't blame China for taking advantage of the fact that we're shooting ourselves in the foot.
Well, I think China's a debt-driven, commodity-driven economy is slowing down for the long term. I think we're going to see, in countries like Brazil, Japan, others affected by this. So if we want to lead economically around the country, we really need to focus on getting our own house in order if we want to get out of this second gear sputtering recovery.
And yet we haven't done that. President Obama, he believes in a different sort of economic theory than that. He thinks that we should, tax corporations. We got the highest tax rates out there, that we should borrow more than we spend. I mean, you talk about China being debt-driven, yet our debt to GDP ratio is second perhaps only to Japan and rising rapidly. So it's kind of hard for us to preach to China or even celebrate the coming collapse of China when, in fact, I think we've got more issues.
I think we do. Now, here's the good news on that. There are a number of people who want to blame China, including presidential candidates, for all of our woes. We know, in your point exactly, we know we are the problem in a number of these issues. The good news is all of these are solvable, including fixing this tax code, calling a timeout on the regulations. The president, his last year, I actually worry he's going to turn the heat on to go the opposite direction, which means we'll continue to have the most disappointing economic recovery in half a century.
I want to shift gears just a little bit, Congressman. The other, of course, major visit in the United States this week and today, Pope Francis, he gave a joint address to Congress, pretty adamant in climate change was high on the agenda, the death penalty, and of course, capitalism. And American-style capitalism is something we all take pride in. I think it's what changed the direction of the earth, the entire planet. The Industrial Revolution ushered in longer lifespans, better lives, and everything else. And yet it's coming under a tremendous amount of criticism. Overall, what's your assessment of Pope Francis and some of his message so far?
Yeah, as a Catholic, I was thrilled to be in the chamber on that historic day. I think the Pope's message on love and prayer to a country that's very divided, to a Washington that's bitterly divided, timing couldn't be better. I really appreciated his call for lawmakers to have the courage and intelligence to resolve these crises, because if you look at our debt, you look at our entitlements, you look at our poor trapped in cycles, actually our free market capitalism is the answer to all those, especially lifting the poor out of poverty, getting them out of that cycle, that poverty cycle he addressed yesterday. What I appreciate, and I'll finish here, is that he called for more caring for the poor. He didn't call for more government for the poor, because he knows local churches and local charities can often help more humanely and personally than government can. And I hope that message didn't get lost.
You and I both. Congressman Brady, we always appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles.